Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we are going to be reviewing the brand new release this week called Antlers. It's a new horror movie. It's kind of low budget. It has Keri Russell in it and Jesse Plemons, and it's a very atmospheric movie with this great creature design, and I cannot wait to talk about this one in full spoiler fashion. So we're going to be talking about spoilers in this review. So if you guys have not seen Antlers, I honestly really do recommend it. I don't think it's a perfect movie by any means, but from what I wanted from it, visually, it is beautiful, and story-wise, I think it's pretty decent. So let's just jump right into this review. Let's just get into spoilers. So this movie takes place in an isolated Oregon town. Like I said, it stars Jesse Plemons and Keri Russell as the main character, who's kind of like investigating these different things. You know, Jesse Plemons is investigating these murders around the town, and then Keri Russell's character is a teacher in the school, and she's kind of like concerned about this one student of hers that is kind of drawing these creepy things, and she's just concerned with his well-being because she grew up in a family of abuse. Her dad was very abusive towards her, and she's thinking that maybe that is the same case with this kid, so she kind of relates to this kid in some way. Jesse Plemons is her brother, and so they have that whole family dynamic, that brother-sister dynamic as well, and so it's kind of like it starts off really strong. I think the setup for this movie is brilliant. The opening scene is great with this, kid and his father out in this mine, and the father and his friend are like, making, I think, either meth or cocaine. They're doing something. They're making some sort of drugs inside of this mine, and they hear some noises, and they go to investigate it, of course, as people in horror movies do, and they get killed by this thing, this creature that you see very briefly. And it just kind of goes from there. You see the other kid kind of wander in there, and you're wondering what in the world is going on. And so then you get to, everything else that's happening with all these other characters, Jesse Plemons and Keri Russell. And I think the whole setup of it all it follows a formula that we've definitely seen before in pretty much every horror movie ever made. You have an opening scene that establishes, the threats and the horror that you'll be seeing throughout the movie. You have these characters investigating this thing, talking to other characters, figuring out the mythology of whatever the creature this is. You have a creepy kid in the movie. It follows all of those beats. There's even a scene where, Keri Russell and Jesse Plemons go to this one native guy who knows everything about the town, and he tells a story of the Wendigo and how to kill the Wendigo, and it's a very expositional scene. It's very much, a scene in a horror movie that's very cliched, but I think the movie does all those different cliches fairly well for the first, 2/3 of this movie. I think the setup was very strong, and the practical effects in this movie is just glorious. I loved the visual style of this movie, the production design, the locations that they had, the practicality of it all was beautiful. I think the cinematography in this movie was really a standout from the opening shots up until the final shots of this film. It is a beautifully filmed movie. I loved the cinematography on this one for sure, and I think I have a weak spot for movies when it has, beautiful cinematography. Honestly, if it has beautiful cinematography, I remember reviewing the movie Gretel and Hansel, and that movie was beautifully shot. Nothing really happened in that movie. It was a very slowly paced movie and kind of boring, but I did kind of walk out of that movie having a decent impression on it just because of the visual aspect of it, and this movie is gorgeous. So I think by that standard alone, I love this movie. But in terms of story, I think it really does struggle in the final act of the film. I think the characters are set up very well. This whole abuse storyline, this connection that she has with this kid, I think is very strong, and that banter between her and her brother is also pretty decently set up. But by the time you get to the end of the movie and you get to, kind of the build up to what you're going to get from this creature, this Wendigo creature, it kind of falls into a lot of cliches and a lot of just dumb characters doing dumb things. And you also get the kind of, character that kind of doubts everything, and he's seeing all these, deeply mutilated bodies. These bodies are eaten, and he thinks that maybe there's some cannibal that's, eating through these people. What kind of person could possibly do this? Because it looks like it's human teeth marks, and it's just very gruesome. The cop character, Jesse Plemons, is like, oh, there has to be some rational explanation for that. No, there's no rational explanation for that. Maybe, yes, your first idea is not going to be there's some supernatural creature that's, doing these things, but once they do talk to that one guy, maybe you start to think that maybe those things are true, but he never starts to think those things are true until he finally encounters it towards the end of the movie. And I think some of the editing towards the ending just doesn't really line up perfectly, because I will say there is one brilliant jump scare in this sequence that I'm talking about. It's when, the second cop character kind of goes to this shed, and he sees the other kid in there, and he gets stabbed in the back by the Wendigo creature, and it's just, that jump scare scared the crap out of me. It was very well done. But then Jesse Plemons does the exact same thing. He walks up, he sees the body lying there, and then the creature pops up behind him, and he falls for the exact same trick that the other cop did. And Keri Russell is watching this throughout the window the entire time, but then she also walks out out there and is surprised when she sees Jesse Plemons all hurt, but she was looking out the window. She should have seen all of these different things. And so I guess the timeline of how these things lined up with the editing, it just kind of made it seem like it was a little just kind of thrown together and a little lazy writing wise. It just seemed like things didn't make complete sense, especially when it came to the ending of this movie. And like I said, you have that scene where she goes and she talks to that one guy who kind of tells her how to kill this Wendigo creature. You gotta cut out its heart, or whatever he said about it. And so when you had that final confrontation between Keri Russell and this Wendigo creature, it was kind of underwhelming. The creature design is incredible. It reminded me a lot of the movie The Ritual and the creature design in that movie. And I think I had similar issues with that movie, where that movie was beautifully shot, the creature design was amazing, but the characters, I think, didn't work as well as I wanted them to. And this movie, I thought they had a very strong start, but by the end of it, I think it was just kind of okay, because Keri Russell's, trying to fight this thing, and it just killed a bear. And so this creature is very intense, and it can kill the crap out of people, but then Keri Russell kind of stabs it a few times, and then kills this creature, and it seemed very easy. It seemed too convenient, and I think it might have been budget-wise, because they had a practical costume. At least it looked like a practical costume. There definitely was some visual effects elements, some CGI elements in the creature, but for the most part, when she's fighting, I feel like it was a practical creature. The way it was like swinging its arms over, it looked like it was a dude in a suit. And so I love the practical aspect of it, but the overall fight seemed underwhelming because of the budgetary constraints that it seemed like they had for the ending of this movie. And so I think towards the end of the movie, it started to crumble a little bit. Some things just logically didn't make sense. Characters made kind of annoying decisions towards the end of it. But overall, I think it was a very, very atmospheric and very creepy and very well shot movie. And overall, I can forgive all of those little, nitpicks and story, things that just don't make sense, because I was so wrapped up in the setup of this movie. I thought it set up so well that the ending just felt a little underwhelming because of how great the setup was. I will say that my favorite scene in the movie was when, you have the kid in this movie kind of locked his brother and his dad up in this room. And so I guess he kind of locked himself in there. He knew that inside of him was changing, like this Wendigo had kind of lashed onto him. He was the new host of this creature. So he was very sick, and he kind of put these bolts on this door, and he told his son, like, whatever you do, do not let us out. And so the kid was like killing these animals and feeding them to his brother and to his dad in this room. And so when the dad was able to kill, another human and, have that, consuming another human's body, that kind of was the last thing that it needed to kind of, fully transform into the Wendigo. And so that entire scene where it transforms is absurdly intense and disturbing, and it was brutal. This movie does not hold back on the gore, on the blood, on the guts. It looked just gruesome. It was very, very cool to see how brutal this thing was. At least the aftermath of all these bodies, it was really gross, and I just wanted more of that by the end of the movie. Unfortunately, though, like I said, it was just slightly underwhelming. And last thing I will say about this movie was the performances. Although the script was kind of lackluster, the performances from Keri Russell and Jesse Plemons in particular, and especially this kid in this movie, were phenomenal. I thought they did the best they possibly could have done with this script. I just wish they took a little, maybe like one or two more drafts of this script. But overall, I thought this was a very, very good horror movie. Definitely worth watching in theaters. I will also be watching Last Night in Soho tomorrow night, so I'll also have a review up probably the same day that I'm uploading this one. Probably back to back I'll upload them, or maybe tomorrow I'll upload my Last Night in Soho spoiler review. So that will be it for my review of Antlers. Did you guys see it? Comment down below what you thought of this movie. I really hope that you went and you saw it in theaters and you experienced the glorious visuals of this movie, because I think that alone is worth the ticket, like the price of admission for this movie. So thanks guys for watching this video. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this review and you want to see a lot more horror reviews. I know I'm doing my 13 days of Halloween series right now, so I have a bunch of horror reviews throughout this entire week, and I will be reviewing Scream 3 and 4 on Halloween, the day of Halloween, so I'm very excited to review those. And I'll be done with the Scream series before Scream 5 comes out in January, so definitely go check out those. Also, I made a short film of my own. I uploaded it on a different channel, but I have the trailer here on this channel. You guys can definitely go check that one out. I had a lot of fun making that one, so please support it. It'd be great if you guys could. But anyways, guys, that'll be it for this video. Thanks guys for watching, and I hope to see you all in my next one.